I'm Linda Hauck, the business librarian at Villanova University, but I also wear another hat. I'm a contributor to our campus-wide Affordable Materials Project. Today, I'm happy to share with Delaware Valley ACRL members how our AMP project has evolved. I'll explain how the project gets started and what my role as coordinator of outreach and communication entails. My colleague Marianne Watson will describe the many workflow improvements she's brought to our eBook matching initiative. Chris Hallberg will do his best to make the technical accessible for all, and John Banionis will explain the approach he's taking to project assessment. The AMP project grew out of a collaboration with the Center for Access, Success, and Achievement, known around Villanova as CASA. When CASA moved into the library's renovated Learning Commons, a partnership was born. CASA has a lending library of donated textbooks that they offered on semester-long loans to Pell-eligible students. The lending library had grown considerably, and the library was able to streamline operations by cataloging their holdings and facilitating circulation. The AMP project took root because of the realization that not only Pell-eligible students struggled with course material costs. It is now a collaboration between CASA, the library, the university bookstore, the Provost's office, and the Villanova Institute for Teaching and Learning. The goal of the Affordable Material Project is to increase student and faculty awareness about strategies for obtaining the best course materials that are most affordable. We have an evolving open educational resources promotion program, and the library has the subscribed eBook matching project, which is the focus of this presentation. The initial blueprint for our book matching program came from an online presentation shared by Louisiana State University. Louisiana was matching ISBNs of books reported to their bookstore to books offered by major publishers to libraries with no digital rights management or with unlimited simultaneous users. I thought our library had the resources and technical know-how in place to replicate the Louisiana State University project. I brought the idea to G. Davis, our Associate University Librarian for Collections and Stewardship, and she championed it, securing library leadership commitment for budget and staffing. The current cross-departmental staffing of the eBook matching program includes Marianne Watson and John Banionis from Resource Management and Description, Chris Hallberg from Library Technology, Louisa Sywinski from Access Services, and myself from Research Services and Scholarly Engagement. I coordinate communication between the book matching project team and the librarians, faculty, students, and the university community. Librarians establish the initial selection criteria based on cost and secondarily on enrollment. Initially, all librarians viewed a spreadsheet. We quickly realized that this slowed down the process and was unnecessary. I applied the baseline criteria, sort the spreadsheet, and distribute titles that don't meet AMP criteria to subject librarians for purchase decisions using non-AMP fund codes. A dedicated AMP order form, typically used throughout the year, has been a nice improvement for tracking faculty requests. In the first year of the program, faculty were notified by email that the library could supply a required text to their students. This slowed down the process, so we eliminated this step and created an opt-out form for faculty instead. In the first year of the program, most students weren't notified that they could use a library ebook until well into the first or second week of the semester. This was really problematic. Many students had already made purchases and were really disappointed to find out that they could have used a library book instead. In the last few semesters, almost all notifications were made in the week prior to the first day of class. This was achieved by improving faculty compliance with book adoption deadlines, work process improvements that Marianne Watson will describe, and taking advantage of the mail merge feature. We've also adjusted the content of student messaging to include information on how to annotate e-texts and to include direct links to the books in the email, as well as instructions on how to find them in our LMS. Over time, the responsiveness of UNIT, who populates the courses with the links, has improved as well. I'm not sure I can say our whole community-wide communication efforts have improved, but they certainly have grown. We've made faculty congress presentations, regularly post on Campus Currents, our email blast, have offered poster sessions at our Teaching and Learning Conference, offer lunchtime workshops in partnership with the bookstore on adoption best practices, and blog on student experiences and program outcomes.
Hi everyone, I am Marianne Watson, the Director of Resource Management and Description at Villanova University. The AMP eBook matching program matches available unlimited seat ebooks from the library to the bookstore list. We also identify purchase options for titles on the bookstore list that we currently don't own or subscribe to. We have allocated $15,000 per year spread between the fall and spring semesters. We began supporting any matches for summer semesters this past semester, but don't make any purchases. It took a few semesters to streamline our workflows. We needed a fast, streamlined way to identify, select, order, and process the ebook matches. Relying on static spreadsheets from multiple publishers, ordering from multiple vendors, and passing back and forth edited and updated spreadsheets was not efficient and data was getting lost. Data pulled from our catalog did not indicate what was an unlimited seat ebook. It's always fun to get a spreadsheet back with your filters gone, sorting awry, and your headers missing. We determined we needed to rely on our book vendor solely for ordering for the need for a quick turnaround. We have other vendors we can order from directly, but it is not a systematic process and did not have the fast turnaround that we needed. Since the initial launch, we transitioned to an MS Access database to store and add ebook matches and bookstore data. Each semester, we run a match query for titles on the bookstore list, which pulls out what ebooks we already have access to, and we can push that to students and faculty immediately after link checking. For ebooks we don't have in our catalog, we identify what ebooks are available in unlimited seat format for purchase from our book vendor, Gobi, and we select the material to purchase based on certain criteria. The prioritized number of students affected, combining enrollment and the number of courses and sections in which a given work is assigned, a price cap of $250, DRM-free versions preferred, and then the lowest price unlimited seat ebook is purchased if approved. Titles that were not selected to be purchased are shared with all the subject liaisons for review and purchasing with their subject funds to be incorporated into the AMP program. We rely on Gobi for ordering due to the very fast activation for our access to the purchased ebooks. Once activated, we add the ISBN and URL information to the database and push out updated reports for student and faculty notification. Once matched, relying on the queries built in MS Access, information is pushed out to the appropriate teams with specific data for processing. The next steps are adding the material to Blackboard course pages and adding to library e-reserves, as well as the notification to students and faculty directly. The AMP eBook matching program relies on many departments within the library, as well as outside of the library. Our staff time includes a developer who updates the database for the current semester, updating the queries, pulling and loading data periodically from other systems like the bookstore list and the course registration data. A liaison librarian who reviews and approves purchases with the dedicated AMP funding. They also email faculty and students directly with ebook matches for their courses, and is also the coordinator between the rest of the fund owners and the acquisitions department. Acquisition staff also work on this program. They confirm prior matches by link checking. They pull ebook availability and pricing for the unmatched titles. They purchase the approved ebooks and manage the acquisitions and cataloging process, and add ebook links and ISBNs to the database, sending updated reports to others for outreach efforts. The assessment librarian also works on this program. After each semester ends, they prepare the assessment, particularly the estimated ROI for students. Bookstore staff who prepare and share bookstore list with the library. Access services staff who add the matches to the electronic course reserves. And university technology who adds the matches to Blackboard courses. Our workflow is extremely time sensitive. We try to process the bulk of the workflow within 3 weeks, with some prep work prior to and assessment after the fact. Our reliance on reusing data from prior semesters, mail merge for systematic outreach, reliance on our book vendor with a quick turnaround and systematic acquisitions and cataloging processes, and storing the multiple data sets in one place to easily query all the data is extremely helpful for a nuanced and complicated process with multiple centers and departments involved. My goal is to continue our process improvements and reduce as much duplication semester to semester as we can while providing a quality service that our students and faculty value highly. The benefits of transitioning to an Access database and queries are multiple. Data from multiple systems can be stored, like bookstore lists, course registration data, including the number of students enrolled and faculty information, ebook information, including ISBN, URL, title, and author, and acquisitions data of ebooks purchased with AMP or subject funds. If titles are used in future semesters, they've already been matched within the database. The data from the bookstore list can be easily enhanced with up-to-date course data from our registration system. We built queries to incorporate exclusions at the request of individual faculty that are excluded automatically. Some faculty still prefer print. This is an opt-out program, and the query helps us manage exclusions consistently. We can manually add titles the faculty have requested from the library for their courses that are not on the bookstore list. This is especially true for ebooks during the pandemic, as faculty rebuilt their courses around electronic resources. We can build new queries as we see the need. Last semester, we started loading the acquisitions data for each semester to aid in the assessment process of the ebook usage and ROI reporting, and built queries to report out that ROI. We plan to import counter usage to the database to improve the ROI assessment process in the future.
Hello, I'm Chris Hallberg, technology developer at the library, and I'm the lead programmer for the AMP project. Marianne just did an excellent job summarizing many of the benefits to our entire team of the new access-based process, but I want to emphasize how this improved our workflow when it comes to the data management. In order to do the ebook matching, we need to compare hundreds of thousands of books. When we first started the project, we looked at the available data, the list of required materials, which is what all the students need for all of their courses, the list of books, both print and electronic, available in the library collection, and a list of potential ebooks from multiple publishers as potential additions to the collection that we could purchase to further assist more students. So I wrote a Python script that took all of this available data, and it produced the list of matches that we wanted and also various other useful reports that were very important to the project. This worked really well, but these only get updated when I run the program, and I only run the program when I get updates on the source information, which needs to be emailed to me, and I have to put it into the format that my Python script preferred. And of course, the Python script kind of got out of control with all of the special requests and reports and different analytics that we needed to run. So it actually became a suite of scripts very quickly that each needed to be maintained, and each new request often required a brand new program to be written. This obviously conflicts with our need for a quick turnaround. As Marianne said, the timing was very sensitive. We got the full list of required materials maybe 2 to 3 weeks ahead of campus with enough confidence to know that most of the courses were up to date. So we needed a new process to remove these bottlenecks. So we switched to the access-based system that's been outlined. And now the entire team edits a shared database, which everyone accesses through MS Access. With everyone editing and referencing a shared database, everyone can edit and see the data at the same time and at any time. The data is always up to date, and any team member can run the reports that they need right out of Access with the most up-to-date information. The Access file is shared among the team via Dropbox, which is great that when queries are updated or new reports are added, everyone's just a sync and a copy away from getting the most up-to-date queries. But even if they're not on the most up-to-date version of the file, they still have the most up-to-date data because the database is still connected and shared. Now when I write special programs, it just handles the most intensive work, usually at the start of the semester. And now I'm trying to add them to the database, which is much easier and much more flexible. So instead of trying to match the special formats that my program needed and then getting processed from there, once they're in the database, it updates all the reports and all the data across. Team members can now also edit the source information, which previously had to wait for me. This also makes sure that the information is up to date. Special cases now, like excluding professors or classes from different reports, is much easier now because it just requires changing some filters and adjusting some queries, which are much easier and quicker to write. And also now that we're in a format that is much more comfortable for more members of our team, and Access can export data to Excel, which a lot of our team are very, very fluent in. It means that there's fewer ad hoc requests and a lot less waiting around for me to get the things done. As Marianne mentioned, the additions to the database are shared and referenced by all the reports. So the more matches that we put into the system, the more matches we get each semester, even though we actually purchase less books each semester, as we'll see later. The updates are seen by all the members and are incorporated immediately. This allows us to be much more agile and better informed, and has largely removed all the bottlenecks that we talked about. This approach was pioneered for the AMP project in the library, but it's so useful that the technology development team has actually used it on a few other projects that require a large team accessing a large amount of data. So it's proven to be very effective here in AMP, and it's proven so effective that we've applied it to other projects inside the library.
I'm John Banionis, Metrics and Assessment Librarian at Falvey Memorial Library at Villanova, and now I'll be talking about the ways that we've measured our return on investment for the AMP program. First, we recently completed our triennial community survey just before the pandemic hit, and this was sent to both faculty and to students, and we asked about all of the different services and programs that the library offers. And specifically, we asked about the awareness and the importance of these programs to the respondents. For AMP, about half of the faculty had reported an awareness of AMP, though only roughly a third of the students said that they were aware of the program, which is a little lower than we'd like to see, but I think that awareness levels increased for students who are further along in their studies at Villanova. But nonetheless, the survey itself served as an educational tool in boosting awareness of the program. As for importance, both faculty and students recognized the value of AMP by ranking it in the top 5 of more than a dozen different library programs, with the students ranking AMP in the top 2. We also received many positive comments from students about how helpful AMP has been for them, so that's been a clear affirmation of our efforts. Another way that we can measure value is by recognizing that many of the titles purchased for the program can be reused in future semesters. So even though we only purchase an ebook once, as long as that same ebook is being used in a future class, the savings can continue on across multiple semesters. And this can be seen in the charts on the following 2 slides, which cover usage of the AMP ebooks and then potential student savings. So this chart shows the total number of titles in the program each semester in the blue bars, with the dark blue showing titles that were used and the light blue representing titles that went unused. Over time, we can see the total number of titles in the program has increased, even though our budget for purchasing has remained the same. And this is because of the ability to reuse titles in future semesters, so you get a cumulative effect happening. Also, as awareness of the program has increased over time, the number of unused titles has decreased now to less than 8% of the total titles in the program for, as we see in spring 2020. In terms of numbers of downloads overall, after we had a very solid start in spring 2018, we then saw this huge spike in downloads during fall 2018 and spring 2019. Though this was primarily due to large numbers of downloads from just a handful of titles that turned out to be extremely popular. So after that, we then saw the usage numbers come back to earth, as it were, during fall 2019, though they're still very respectable. But then again in spring 2020, we saw usage shoot up again, though this was largely due to the pandemic, when really all of our ebook usage saw a large increase due to us going fully online. Finally, when it comes to measuring ROI, here we see what the library has spent on AMP ebooks in the very small blue bars compared to the calculated potential student savings in the red bars, with the dotted lines showing the cumulative spending and savings. First, it's important to note that we're only counting purchases made with allocated AMP funding in our cost calculations for that particular semester, and not including titles in the cost calculations that were either previously owned or already available via a subscription package. that we already had. As for the student savings, we take the number of students enrolled in the course and then multiply that by the bookstore use price. So that's how we come up with the potential student savings number. This obviously provides us with a maximum potential student savings, as it's difficult or really impossible to know just how many students may have used the AMP ebooks instead of purchasing their own copy of the book. And looking at bookstore sales data isn't particularly helpful, as students could purchase books from anywhere. And so because of that, I've also looked at some other ways to calculate the savings number. First, by excluding zero-use titles from the savings calculation. So that reduces the savings by about 13% over the course of the program. Or even more conservatively, if you take the number of downloads, if it's less than the course enrollment number, then adjusting that enrollment number downward to the actual usage number, and then multiplying that usage number by the used bookstore price. So then that way, obviously, if there's only 5 downloads and 20 students in the class, using 5 as the multiplier reflects that clearly no more than 5 students would have accessed the title. But even doing that reduces the figure by only another 13%, as most of our titles really have reasonably high usage. So there's really many ways to argue for calculating the savings number, but this yardstick approach of ours to a maximum student savings, with that we have a return on investment of about 16 times. But even with the most conservative approach that I mentioned, even that has our savings exceeding our cost by more than tenfold. Of course, due to privacy concerns, we don't know exactly who is actually downloading the books, whether they're in the course or not. So in the future, it may be worthwhile to survey a sample of students who are enrolled in AMP-supported courses to ask about their actual participation levels in the program to get an even clearer sense of the savings. And with that, we really appreciate you watching our presentation on the Affordable Materials Project at Villanova. And we truly look forward to answering your questions during the virtual Q&A session scheduled for October 16th. Thank you very much.